Hey guys, I just wanted to share a bit of a testimony, all about God speaking, about prophecy, and how sometimes things take a bit of time before what God says to come to pass. God has the perfect plan, and sometimes things that He says don't happen immediately. Now, going back to the beginning of this testimony, there was a gathering that I was involved in a number of years ago, and I was playing worship. I was leading, some music, and there was one time a visiting prophet came to speak, and he prophesied over a few people, and he prophesied over me a few words to do with music and to do with my music going to different places and reaching different people. But at the time, I sort of didn't really take the words that seriously. I kind of parked them, and one of the reasons was because he said a few other things that at the time didn't really seem to make sense, and and also I think I didn't really know what to do. How to sort of help those words come, come to being. So I parked the word, but fast forward 6 years. I'd gone through. I've been doing other things, doing a lot of youth work and stuff that many of you will know. And I was doing music on the side, and I came to a point where I knew that I needed to focus on music, but I was very unsure and unclear about the direction. And I'd always, not always, but at that time I'd sort of struggled, with vision, what to do with the music that I was doing. I was writing songs, but I was going through a bit of writer's block and that kind of thing. God spoke to me very clearly that it's time to step out and do music. And I took a very big step. I was working at the time, and I left the job I was doing. I didn't really enjoy it very much. But very shortly after that, and this was before lockdown, and at the time in the church I was in, we were having an evening service, and this couple came to speak to me afterwards, and they were visiting people from to the church, and the lady said to me, she had a word for me. She remembered about 6 years ago being at this meeting, and God had reminded her of this memory. It's not something that she naturally remembered, but God reminded her of the memory of being there and the words that prophet said, and I'd forgotten about them, and God had reminded her. And so they prayed for me, and they reminded me of these words, and it was such a powerful moment because God had confirmed what He'd said to me before. And so I knew that God had called me to do music and to focus on that. So, really, the reason I'm sharing this is because some of you might have had words that you've had in the past, or it might be dreams, it might be things that God has really put on your heart in the past. And it's easy to let those things die. And sometimes they need to die for a certain time before God will raise them up again. But could it be that now is the time for God to raise up things that He's planted in you? Could it be that now is a time to grab hold of the words that He's spoken? It's important to write these things down. I always find writing down things that God has said to me, whether it's me directly or through other people, it's always good to write stuff down so that you can take it out later and you can remind yourself, or you can see how God has lined things up over time. And finally, I want to just say, in the Bible, we see the story of Joseph, and obviously his situation was much more extreme. He waited a very long time, longer than 6 years, for his dreams to come to pass, and also he was in a much more difficult situation, being in prison for all those years. But we see in the story of Joseph that no matter how unlikely it seems, the word of God always remains faithful. And the process that Joseph went through, if he hadn't have gone through that process of being in prison in Egypt, then Egypt would never have been saved, his family would never have been saved, and the Messiah would never have even been born. I mean, that's pretty crazy, isn't it? I mean, God may have found another way, but you see the gravity of this, that actually, whatever Joseph went through was for a purpose, and at the right time, God raised him up and his dreams came to pass. So don't let go of the things that God has spoken to you. He is faithful to fulfill those things. God bless, guys.